Hello, this is Deb Wallace, and this is tutorial number 2 on creating your online survey application using Qualtrics. If you missed my first tutorial, you would have missed that I am part of the University of Akron, and one of the benefits of being part of the University of Akron is that the University of Akron is a corporate customer of Qualtrics. Because of that, I've been granted access to use this application, not just for this particular tutorial, but also for educational research purposes, since I am a student and an instructor here. We do have one site administrator who handles all access and account usage for Qualtrics, and that person's name is Mr. Anthony Zerpetti. If you missed my first tutorial, you would have missed me mentioning Mr. Anthony Zerpetti. His contact information is right here in case you're wondering how you can connect with him if you need to access Qualtrics. He's fantastic in terms of not just providing access, but walking students and faculty members through on how they can use Qualtrics, on ways that they can maximize their research and putting together the right questions so that the data that the person is looking to get is rich. So this is fantastic, a fantastic resource. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go back to my projects page. I'm going to quickly talk about the folders, and then we're going to jump into creating our online survey. So in my last tutorial, I left off with talking about the folders. The folders are just organizers for any of your online surveys that you have available on your projects page. You'll notice that there are 3 projects here, and there are 3 projects here under the folders tab. If I click this folders button once, all of the folders go away and the projects just become expanded. When I click the folders button again, the folders come back. You'll notice that there's an uncategorized section, so there can be projects that you don't have folders for that are just on the front page. But as you see, I have a folder for my diversity survey and I have a folder for both of the mentoring surveys. I do want to highlight any projects that are shared with me or that you share with someone has an originator. So if you are the person who starts a survey, you start the survey under your account and you share that survey with someone else, then when they receive that survey, your name is going to appear underneath that survey as the owner, right? So you'll see here that Mr. Anthony Zerpetti is the owner of these 2 surveys because he helped set the survey up for me. So I was able to go in once he shared that survey and manipulate some of the questions, eliminate or add or shorten, whatever I needed to do to modify the survey so that it fit my needs before I sent it out to my participants, right? So if I wanted to create another folder for a new project, what I would simply do was I would hit the create a new folder, the new folder button right here, and my untitled folder would appear, right? And I actually have 2 untitled folders. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to delete this one, and I'm going to, did I delete it? We're going to delete that, right? And I'm going to highlight the untitled folder again. Once I highlight it, right, I'm going to click on where it says untitled folder, and you'll notice that it highlights for me to change the name, and I'm actually going to do online survey usage, right? I'm going to create my folder for online survey usage, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my little cursor over here to create project, and we're going to jump right into creating our online survey. What I need to do once I do that is to give my project a name, and because I've named my folder online survey usage, would help if I spell usage properly. Once I give my project a name, I'm just going to proceed to create a project. This is going to take us to the site where we're going to start to build our survey. You'll notice that when you get to the page where you're going to build your survey, you're going to have a block, and then you're going to have a question. So blocks are what houses the questions for each of for your survey. So your block would be your sort of like the block and the house, So if you live on a block, your block would be the area where your questions are housed, and your houses sort of would be a metaphor for your survey questions. So your block sort of serves as your, if you will, like the zip code for each of the houses. So this block, I would name my instructions. As protocol, I like to make sure that anybody who would be taking my survey would have at least an outline of what it is I'm doing and why I'm asking them to fill out my survey. So my first block, I would name instructions. I will give it the title instructions or directions, whichever you choose. I'm actually going to go to directions, survey directions. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to write some text here. Before I do, I want to draw your attention to this side of the screen where we're looking at question type, choices, the type of answers, the position, the validation responses, validation type, actions. What we're going to do for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to focus on the question type, the choices, the answers, the position, right? So as you can see here, we have multiple choice questions set up here, here, and here. I do not want multiple choice questions. I want to provide a text entry only, right? And actually, I don't want to provide text entry. I want to provide descriptive text. Descriptive text does not allow for any responses to be given in this box, right? And for the sake of providing directions or instructions, I want to make sure that this section is only for people to read. So I'm going to fix my survey directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my instructions for this survey. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the purpose of this survey is to collect data on the usage and comfortability with online surveys. All participation is voluntary. Please be sure to read each section carefully. Answer all the questions. If you are uncomfortable with any or all parts of the survey, you can opt to not finish. The survey should take no more than 5 minutes, right? So I like to set the expectation, and this, I like to set the expectation about what the survey is about, how long it's going to take the participant, if the participant is going to be forced, if they're going to be, dealing with a bunch of pop-ups that's going to make them take the survey. You and I both know that if I or you encounter a survey and it's not favorable or if it's time consuming, we want the option to opt out. We don't want our computers becoming frozen because pop-ups or whatever, or maybe someone wants to skip a question. So the goal is to make the survey from the onslaught easy as possible, to give them as much information as possible so that they're not wondering, well, why am I taking this survey, and skipping your survey. So I like to make sure that I spill all of that out on the front so that they're not wondering and you're not having to go back and answer questions, right? This will prevent people from having to email you saying, so what is the survey for? Why are you asking me for this information? Am I going to be tracked down after I fill out the survey? Is the information going to, is my information going to be kept confidential? That's another thing that you want to make sure that you include, and I may actually go ahead and add that all information, all data collected will be kept confidential and will be used for the purposes of educational research only. Okay. There we go. All right, so this is your survey block. And this question 1, which essentially is just text, is just directions and providing an overview of what your survey is going to be about. All right, so we're going to move forward. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add another block. So again, your block is like the cluster of zip codes or cluster of houses in a zip code, and then your questions are the actual houses. So I try to provide a visual there so that when you're building your survey, you can keep your blocks. Now, you don't necessarily have to use blocks. I use blocks because I like to delineate between, you know, the instruction section, my demographic section, and the section that allows for me to get at the information that I'm trying to get at. The next block that I'm going to add is a demographic block. So how do we add a second block? We're going to go up to this corner where it says block options. And once you get to block options, you're going to hit the little down arrow and a drop down menu is going to appear. You're going to add a block below, right? So like we did for the first block, I'm going to name this block demographics. I like demographics because it gives me a chance to cluster people and categorize people into groups so that when I'm looking at my other data, my dependent variable, I can compare and contrast the different groups as it relates, you know, to this variable of online usage, right? So I'm just going to add probably 3 questions here, right? So we'll add 3 questions. All right, so we're going to go to our question type. For the first couple of questions, will use multiple choice. I think multiple choice is easier to use, and it's easier for participants to answer. You can do a question or you can do a statement, have them fill in the blank. I prefer to do statements. So for this first question, it's gonna be a gender question. I am a male, female. Huh. And I love how Qualtrics has fantastic stroke memory because I've typed this before, right? We'll do a second question. So we're going to create a second question. So what did I do that was different from this block to this block? From this block, the first block, I did not add any additional questions, right? We fixed the block. We named our block survey directions. We added our text, right? We chose the question type and we added descriptive text, right? Which didn't provide any options. We just want our readers to read, our participants to read. And then I went and I added a block. The second block of questions, we are collecting data on demographics. Who's going to be taking our survey? So we want to find out how many women, how many men. We want to find out age, right? We can do age. My age is, and for the sake of this survey, we'll keep it very simple, right? So normally you can do 17 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 40. So we could do something like that. But for the sake of this survey, we're just going to do less than 35, more than 35. And let me put years, right? Years old. This is what we call collapsing. Right. So what we're going to do with this third option, we're going to delete it. So how do we delete it? I'm going to click on this third choice and I'm going to hit the down arrow key and we're going to hit remove choice, right? So we have gender, we have age, and then we can do, we'll do race, right? So I'm going to add another question. My race is, we'll just do and as I'm just entering in these races, Latino, So you can see I just have 3 choices, right? So what I'm going to do, because I want more choices added onto my race question, I'm going to go up here, right? And I'm not going to change my question type. I'm just going to add more choices, right? 4, 5. So we'll do Asian. We'll do national. All right. So let me talk a little bit about this. So for these 3 categories, if we want people to just choose biracial, multiracial, international, that's fine. If we want additional information, so we want them to further explain what 2 races is your racial or ethnic background comprised of, what we can do is we're going to click on this particular choice, and we are going to actually allow a text entry, right? And what that does is it provides an option for the respondent to provide which 2 races are part of their ethnic background. We can do the same thing for multiracial, right? We're going to allow text entry, and we'll just stretch that out so that this respondents can provide the races that make up their ethnic and racial background. We'll do the same thing for international. So what I'm going to do here is, in parentheses, is please provide right? And I'm going to do the same thing here. Right? And then what I did here is I just clicked on the option for international, and I'm just going to, in parentheses, provide your country of origin, right? So let me go back up here to the demographics block. I'm going to provide some information. Please answer all the questions below, right? All right. So we have created a demographics block with 3 demographic questions. Voila. All right, so we're going to do one more block, and with this block we're going to do 2 questions, and these 2 questions are going to be actually we'll do 3 more questions, and these questions will be centered around online survey usage. And what we'll do with these questions is that we will use some different type of questions. So we'll do a matrix question, which is more of a Likert scale type question. And then we'll do a question where participants can rank order, and then we'll provide a question where your participants can provide a written response, sort of in a mini essay form. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create another block. So we're going to do what we did for the previous 2 blocks. So we're going to go back up to block options. We're going to add a block below, right? And we are going to create 1, 2, 3 questions, right? So for this block, I'm going to name this online survey usage, right? This is what we want to get at, right? We asked the preliminary questions of who are you? Now we're going to ask, what are you doing with online surveying, right? So as I said before, we want to change the question type. And for this question, I think we want to use a matrix question, which provides a Likert scale, right? So what we'll do here, and this is perfect because I'll move this question up and we'll play a little bit with the other features here. So we are going to change our text to online survey usage and comfortability, right? So I will do this. Right. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, you could do likely, unlikely, very unlikely, very likely, likely, unlikely, very unlikely. So you could do the same thing. But this is sort of a, like I said, a Likert scale where you can, if you wanted to assign number values to each of these options, you could. So we're going to provide statements where we're going to rank, or we're going to use this matrix. So generally, I prefer that's one. That's two. That's three. So we have three questions here, right? So we're looking at usage and comfortability. I generally prefer comfortable, very comfortable, comfortable, uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I'm familiar with using online applications to get data for work or personal knowledge. I'm comfortable, very comfortable, uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I have created and distributed an online survey for personal or work information. And I'll reword that for personal, work, or right. And we'll do one more. I'll add one more question. We'll just leave it at three. Okay. So since this is, we'll do a rank order question, right? So we'll do 6. We'll rank order. Least likely to use. All right, so we're going to get rid of this. We're just going to do 3 choices. So we'll do We don't want automatic items. So I have to get out of here. So I'm going to do undo automatic items. So we're going to edit. There we go. So we've ranked order our multiple items here. So I had to come over to here in order to change my options here where it says edit multiple. So I changed those multiple items to online applications, and I actually need to change that to right. All right. And this last question we will use as a text box question, right? Text entry. And what we'll do with this text entry is we will do an essay box where we can spread this out a little bit bigger, right? And we'll provide a question that says, describe your experience online survey the participant. How about a recent? All right. So we see here that this is a text question, so sort of an essay question. All right. So what if we did not want to, have these questions in this order? We wanted to have the comfortability question moved up, and we want to have the rank order question moved down. What if we wanted to switch the order of these questions? Well, this is what we would do. We could move these questions up. So I could move this question up by moving my cursor over to the far left of this question where this block is, and this where this question is in the block. And once I do, these arrows up and down will appear. Because I would want to move my question 7 up to number 1, I would just click the up arrow. It would move up 1, and the rank order question would come down 1, and I would move it up again, and it would be at the top of this block. Okay. Now, if I wanted to move my essay question down to the bottom, I would again move my cursor over to the left, and I would hit the arrow key down and move that question down to the bottom, right? So there we have it. This is how we set